We're going to begin this Wednesday morning with the Trump administration's federal takeover of law enforcement in Washington, D.C.
On Tuesday, National Guard troops began reporting for duty at the D.C. Armory. It's part of President Trump's directive to address crime in the nation's capital. He claims the city is being overtaken by, quote, violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals. He made this decision to federalize the police department under the D.C. Home Rule Act, even though violent crime in D.C. is down 26% so far this year. We're also learning new details this morning about Mr. Trump's highly anticipated meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which is set for this Friday in Alaska. We now know the summit to discuss the potential end to Russia's war in Ukraine will take place at a U.S. military base in Anchorage. We'll have more ahead on Friday's summit in a moment, plus analysis from our John Allen. Let's begin with NBC News correspondent Alice Barr in Washington with the very latest. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. The National Guard deployment has begun here in the nation's capital, responding to what President Trump calls out-of-control crime, while the mayor is defending the city and calling the president's actions an authoritarian push. A new sight for tourists at some of Washington, D.C.'s most visited landmarks as hundreds of National Guard troops began deployments in the nation's capital overnight, joining D.C. police now under federal control for 30 days on orders from President Trump, who declared a public safety emergency.
We are removing as many criminals from the streets, and we are cleaning up D.C. as best as we can.
The White House touting 23 arrests Monday night by federal agents, from homicide to guns and drugs, also promising to remove homeless encampments and move people to shelters for services or to jail if they refuse.
These are pre-existing laws that are already on the books. They have not been enforced.
Protesters and critics in Congress slamming what they call a manufactured crisis and presidential overreach.
He's taking away checks and balances.
City leaders pointing to dropping violent crime stats over the past 2 years. The mayor meeting with the attorney general, promising to make the most of the surge in federal resources while criticizing what she called an authoritarian push.
We all need to do what we can in our space, in our lane, to protect our city and to protect our autonomy.
And Alice, you mentioned Mayor Bowser's meeting with Attorney General Pam Bondi. What more are we learning about that meeting?
Yeah, Joe, certainly the mayor came out of that meeting saying that she wanted to take advantage of this surge in federal resources while it's here, that she believes that more can be done to tackle issues of crime in this city, and that if the federal government can assist with that, she's not going to turn it down. There's no question that she is walking a tightrope here. It is clear that a lot of people in this city see that crime is an issue that they want to have addressed, so she doesn't want to be seen as rebuffing that. She also knows the fact that President Trump has authority because of the way that the government is set up here in D.C., because of home rule, and she has frequently said that she wants to work with the president wherever she can in order to ensure that there are not these kind of serious rubs that could take away power from this city. But she also has many in the city who are objecting strongly to what's going on, and that's where you saw her say this is an authoritarian push and sharpening some of her rhetoric. Joe.
All right. Alice Barr reporting from Washington. Alice, thank you.
Now let's focus in on President Trump's upcoming meeting with President Putin in Alaska. We have NBC News reporter Matt Bodner joining us for more on this. Matt, good morning. So Ukraine's President Zelensky, who's not a part of this meeting, is holding talks with European leaders this morning before joining them on a call with President Trump. Tell us, what's going to be the message from Europe and from Kyiv to Mr. Trump ahead of this meeting?
Well, basically, Savannah, the message that Zelensky and the Europeans are going to be hammering home on these calls today is as follows. More pressure must be put on Russia to force the Kremlin to take peace seriously. There are no signs that Russia is currently prepared to end the war, and that the only way forward is an unconditional ceasefire followed by negotiations for a final peace settlement that respects Ukraine's sovereign borders and provides security guarantees to Ukraine. The other essential message, probably the most essential message, is that we'll see today is this: no decision should be made about Ukraine without Ukraine, especially with regards to Russian efforts to change the borders by force. Savannah.
Matt, we've also learned the venue for this meeting in Alaska is Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage. We know the president's ultimate goal is to try and eventually bring about a peace deal with Ukraine. They don't expect a deal out of this meeting. So what is the White House aiming to get out of this meeting?
Well, Joe, the White House seems to be trying to manage expectations at this point, and for the Ukrainians and the Europeans, that may be slightly encouraging. It will be interesting to see what the White House has to say after today's meetings, but essentially, they're now framing this as sort of an exploratory venture to see what's possible. Take a listen to this.
I think this is a listening exercise for the president. Look, only one party that's involved in this war is going to be present. And so this is for the president to go and to get, again, a more firm and better understanding of how we can hopefully bring this war to an end.
It's hard to imagine there's going to be any surprises about what Putin plans to say in Alaska and what his ultimate aims here are. In her briefing today, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova suggested there will be no concessions offered by Russia. When she was asked about territory, she said, quote, "The territorial structure of the Russian Federation is enshrined in the constitution of our country, and that says it all. Therefore, the goals of the Russian delegation are dictated by national interests." That is a reference to the 4 regions of eastern Ukraine that Russia has formally annexed. They did that a few years ago. And those would be Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. Russia does not have full military control of these territories. The Kremlin wants all of it. Joe?
Matt, also, I know you told us kind of some of the non-negotiables that could come out of this conversation with Zelensky and European leaders today, but tell us more about land here. Would Ukraine even consider giving away any territory or swapping territory, as Mr. Trump has suggested?
So obviously we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but publicly it's really difficult to see how Zelensky could even begin to consider that. The fact of the matter is the Ukrainian parliament has enshrined in the Ukrainian constitution that entire regions of the country can't just be given away. It would require a national referendum. So there's this question of public opinion. And, you know, the Ukrainian public is, of course, war-weary. This is taking a huge toll on them. But there's really not much evidence that the public is ready to accept those kinds of concessions to end the war. So Zelensky is really bound by law and public opinion one way or another. Savannah?
All right, Matt Bodner, thank you very much.
Let's bring in NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. John, good to have you with us. Let's pick it up right there. Secretary of State Marco Rubio describes this upcoming summit as a feel-out meeting, saying it's, quote, not a concession to Putin. The White House really wanted to get this meeting on the calendar. Now it seems like they're trying very hard to manage the expectations for it. What's going on here?
I mean, they have to manage expectations because, you know, the president said during his campaign that he would end this war on day one, and it's been 7 months or so. You know, it's not his war. It's not the United States' war, and yet he is interjecting himself into the middle of it to try to get it stopped. So I'm not surprised the Secretary of State is playing down expectations, or that Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, is playing down expectations. And at the same time, they have a boss who has repeatedly promised that he's going to bring about an end to the war. As Caroline pointed out, there is only one party to the war that is formally invited to these negotiations. And, you know, I think the standstill has just been laid out already on this program, which is that, you know, in order to get Russia to stop, Ukraine would have to cede land. And it's not clear that in a peace negotiation now that they you know, that would stop Russia, and you know, number two, whether over the long term it would stop a country that has continued to attempt to annex parts of its neighbors.
John, we also want to chat with you about what we were talking with Alice about just a moment ago, the National Guard troops arriving in Washington, D.C. at the direction of President Trump. We heard some of this with her, but I want to play a little bit more of city officials there in D.C. addressing this yesterday. We'll talk after.
What I'm focused on is the federal surge and how to make the most of the additional officer support that we have.
And we have been working collaboratively. I think this is going to be a good effort. It's going to be an effort that's supported by both teams, the Metropolitan Police Department, as well as our federal partners.
John, Alice called it a tightrope, which I think was a great way to explain this sort of fine line the mayor walks as she attempts to work with the Trump administration and accept these additional resources. Walk us through some of your reporting.
I mean, not only walking a tightrope, but doing while trying to juggle flaming swords and dodging, you know, bats that are flying at her. I mean, this is a really tough situation for the mayor. The truth is that the president has the power to, you know, call up the National Guard. He has the power to basically take over the D.C. police force, and the mayor can't really do anything about it. I think what's fascinating about what you've seen from her over the last, say, 48 hours or so is that she is both expressing the frustration of her constituents that the federal government is, effectively taking over law enforcement in the city, and also stopping short of being insulting to President Trump. So, she said that this is an authoritarian push, or that it's moving in an authoritarian direction. But she really has shied away from taking pot shots at the president himself. Part of that is that there's a lot at stake for her. Not only does the president have the ability, if he wants to kind of continue to take over the city for the moment, the Congress is still sitting on $1 billion that it basically froze in D.C. money earlier this year in what was called the One Big Beautiful Bill. Lawmakers later said that that was a mistake. They didn't mean to do it. And the Senate turned around and passed a repeal, but it's sitting in the House right now. So she's got $1 billion on the line at the very least.
All right, John Allen, always good to have you with us. Thank you, John.
Let's get to the weather. Our other big story here, the summer swelter. It's going to roll on again today. Millions of people across the country are under heat advisories as record-breaking temperatures are expected on both coasts.
It seems as if it's not the heat, it's then the rain. Powerful storms caused major flooding in southeastern Tennessee, trapping people in their homes and in their cars.
NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin, she's in Norwalk, Connecticut. She's joining us with the latest. Erin, good morning. So let's start on that heat. Just how hot is it expected to get today, and in which parts of the country?
Hey, Savannah, it was absolutely scorching yesterday. Let's talk about some of the record temps we saw here in the Northeast. Pull up some of these stats. In Burlington, Vermont, it reached 98 degrees. And to put that temperature in perspective, it was last 93 degrees in 1947. That was the previous record. And then you have Syracuse, New York, saw another record, 95 degrees. That hasn't been seen in Syracuse since 1944. And then in Augusta, Maine, it reached 97 degrees. That hasn't been seen since 2002. The previous record there was 93 degrees. It has been sweltering here in the Northeast, sending folks to splash pads like the one behind me for relief. Today expected to be another scorcher. And then further south, we saw some flash flooding, record-setting rains in Tennessee. Tennessee, just get this, in a matter of 4 hours, saw 6.42 inches of rain. That is more than 2 inches per hour, triggering these intense flash floods. We saw these water rescues. And as the waters are receding there in Tennessee, there's a flood threat going on right now in Alaska due to what authorities are calling a glacial outburst. They're ordering evacuations in parts of Juneau. The city of Juneau releasing a statement saying, quote, a glacial outburst has occurred at a place called Suicide Basin. The basin is releasing and flooding is expected along the Mendenhall Lake and River. Officials recommend residents in the 17-foot lake level inundation zone evacuate the area until the floodwaters recede. We understand that it's the third time that that area has been evacuated due to a so-called glacial outburst, the third summer in a row, and this unrelenting weather, really rolling on across the country this summer.
That is the first time I've ever heard of a glacial outburst before. So, Erin, with all this extreme weather all over the country, what are experts saying about the things folks should do to stay safe?
Yesterday I spent the day at the Heat Lab at the University of Connecticut, where they actually study this very question that is becoming more and more urgent as the climate gets warmer and the climate situation gets worse. First and foremost, they say, make sure you're staying hydrated. Also, know your body. Check in with yourself, especially if you're spending prolonged periods outside in some of these intense temperatures. Make sure that you're taking time to cool down. They're pointing to things such as cooling vests, cooling scarves, and bandanas. That really does the trick. You may see folks, I know I see it in New York City, carrying around those little portable fans. Experts there say, no, that doesn't do the trick. You need some water on the skin.
All right, really good tips. Erin, thank you so much.
Let's get a closer look now at where we'll see those high temperatures today with your Morning News Now weather.
Yeah, we've got Michelle Grossman joining us this morning. Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Hi there, guys. Well, yeah, definitely coast to coast and everywhere in between. It is hot for so many of us. We're looking at temperatures well above normal for this time of year. And we do have heat alerts, but not necessarily where you don't see a heat alert. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be hot. We're going to see temperatures really hot for a lot of us. 16 million people impacted by heat alerts. We have heat advisories. That's in the orange. And we also have extreme heat warnings in the pink. So that includes places like Phoenix and Las Vegas. We are looking to the west. We're looking to parts of the south, along the southeast, and also parts of the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, and New England with temperatures well above normal. This is why we have those two big areas of high pressure that is just bringing in this warm air. It's also bringing in the humidity on the East Coast. I'll show you that in just a minute. But take a look at some of these numbers. We're looking at 110 in Las Vegas. That's 7 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. And near the triple digits in Boise, Billings, we're looking at 97 degrees today in Denver. And it's not just the West, not just the Intermountain West. We're looking to New England. Aaron mentioned some numbers there. But we're looking at Portland today, 89 degrees, 11 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. The heat goes on tomorrow. We're looking at temperatures near 100 degrees in parts of the Northern Plains and Rapid City. We're looking at 97 on Thursday in Albuquerque, Dodge City. Temperatures also warm once again in New York City on Thursday. New York City, we're going to see 87 degrees and 90 in Roanoke. And I will tell you that the heat does continue into the weekend also. We have a cold front that's also moving across portions of the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. So with that heat and humidity, we're going to see scattered showers and storms. You can see all those colors on the map here. That's our futurecast showing us where we think we're going to see some showers. And with this, we're not expecting a high risk, severe risk, but we're expecting the chance for more flooding. So I do want to mention that we could see tropical downpours in some spots, especially in the southern Appalachians, guys, and that's really dangerous. We've seen picture after picture of flooding, and we're going to see that once again today. Remember, warmer air holds more water, and that's what we're seeing across the country. Back to you.
Michelle, thank you so much.
Well, this morning we are hearing chilling new details about the suspect accused of killing 3 people in a shooting in a Target parking lot on Monday. Police in Texas say the accused gunman battled mental health issues and is now facing multiple murder charges. It comes as we are also learning more about the 3 victims killed in that shooting. Here's NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson with more.
Harrowing new details in the shooting rampage at this Target parking lot that left 3 people, including a 4-year-old child, dead. 32-year-old Ethan Nineker appearing bloody and bruised in this booking photo, now charged with those murders.
The suspect is armed and has shot multiple people.
Police say the 911 calls started pouring in at 2:15 p.m. Authorities arrived to find Hector Martinez Machuca, a Target employee, shot. Attacked randomly while collecting shopping carts, police say.
He was transported to the hospital where he was later pronounced deceased.
The suspect then fired off more shots, they say, before running up to a gray Toyota, shooting the driver, 65-year-old Adam Chow, and killing his 4-year-old granddaughter Astrid in the back seat. They were pronounced dead at the scene. Police say the suspect threw Mr. Chow's wife from the vehicle as she clutched the child, then stole the car, sped off, and crashed it.
Over the next hour, Nineker committed multiple crimes, including attempting to steal a water truck, causing multiple crashes, assaulting another female driver, and stealing her Volkswagen.
Police say they found him across the city in a backyard, naked, holding a Bible, where they used a taser to bring him down.
He said that he was Jesus, and there was really no reason whatsoever given. It was a completely random choosing of the victims.
According to authorities, the suspect has a history of mental health issues, including 2 2018 police calls for an emotionally disturbed person. Austin police say he's been convicted in the past for violation of a protective order, driving while intoxicated, and assault.
This man had some serious issues. There were some serious failures here.
Ashley Fairley was checking out inside the Target with her daughter when gunshots rang out.
We're not doing well. I feel nothing. I just feel like void in a way.
The Chows are remembering Adam as the steady backbone of the family and young Astrid as pure silliness and joy, writing, "We are broken and miss them both so much." And one of the key questions that remains to be answered is where exactly this suspect got this gun. Police say that they believe he used a handgun that he got from a family member. And I did ask investigators whether or not there could be additional charges for anyone else as it relates to that gun. And they said that that is something they're investigating. Back to you.
All right, Priscilla, thank you.
In Pennsylvania, there are new questions about what caused the explosion at a steel factory outside of Pittsburgh. 2 people were killed in Monday's explosion. 10 others were injured as investigators continue looking for answers into what caused the blast. We're hearing from one worker about the moment it happened. NBC News correspondent Adrian Broaddus has the latest.
Devastating damage seen from above after this massive explosion at a U.S. steel plant as investigators work to find the cause.
We're not going to speculate. We're going to let the people do their work and support them in that important job.
Officials say there were no warnings that indicated any problems at the factory.
Routine maintenance is what they were preparing for. I think it was actually going to happen next week.
Andrew Macy has worked at the Clairton steel plant for 44 years.
There was a very loud bang. We looked to our left, thinking that on the main line of our railroads, the 2 engines collided head on. And then as we turned to our right, we saw a plume of black smoke. And immediately, there was silence.
Here's video of the plant from 2019. You see the 5 smokestacks at the center, and this is what it looks like after Monday's blast. Aerials show portion of this bustling work site, now a massive cleanup operation, the remains of a truck and scattered debris.
What caused this explosion, and is it safe to operate?
Well, first, it is safe to operate now. We don't know the root cause of the issue. It was isolated between a couple of our batteries, so we're investigating that.
The explosion killing 2 people, 39-year-old Timothy Quinn, a father who came from a steel mill working family. The second person killed has yet to be identified.
They're family. That's what we are in here. And in an incident like this, we bond together and we'll all come back.
And part of the plant remains shut down as a precaution while repairs are made and the investigation continues. Plant officials say they are assembling a team, which includes outside investigators, to speak with the people who were on site at the time of the explosion to determine what happened. Meanwhile, at least 5 people are still listed in critical but stable condition. Adrian Broaddus, NBC News, Clairton, Pennsylvania.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.